first stage at Luca, and I'm very happy to see a rebranded roster going into the next following weeks.
It really feels to me like the level of, I think, talent amongst the players is much more evenly split in Stage 2.
Right.
You know, I've absolutely no disrespect to the players that were unfortunately relegated in Luca Comics and Games, you know, for the Stage 1 finals. I just feel like they were almost like overtaken for a reason, and now we've gone into stage number 2. Just looking at these lineups and the rosters, there's almost like this much smaller chance of us being able to, I think, just tell how we absolutely think the sets are going to go before they play out. You know, we have someone like, you know, one of the real key matches here I'm really looking at is once again the return of Cypher going up against Cooler, though. You know, I know he was kind of straight into the Shark Tank in week number 1, and that's kind of continuing in week 2. And with Cooler being the current world champion, you know, for Quake Pro League, what a message it would be if Cypher's able to take that win. And there's so many matches like that as we go into the future stages. But
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Cypher did go down 3-0 last week against Killzone, but let's not forget, he took out Rafa, and Rafa is the player that everyone always is telling you to watch because he's just so incredibly skilled and talented and disciplined, and he is still holding the first place in the overall global leaderboard. So that's quite the achievement for Cypher.
So I believe we have the rankings to show you to see where everyone's currently stacking up. I'm really paying attention to some of that new blood. As you can see, the change of the point format where players will get awarded sort of more points this stage than they did in the last one. That's obviously going to help some of our up-and-coming players, you know, like G-Nick, for example, Dewey, right down there. Going to be seeing them later over the course of the day. But then actually ignoring the bottom side, we look at the top, and the top very much is still, as you'd expect, Rafa's right up there alongside Kilson, Raizy, who has been on an absolute rampage since Quake Pro League began, to hang Wenger, Cooler, and then Cygib, really kind of sitting around that comfortable spot. But I feel like throughout the course of this stage, those standings could absolutely change significantly.
Oh yeah, and I mean, if we look at around the 13th and the 14th place, I think there's already something very interesting happening, because if you can tell, CNZ actually overtook Avec in the global rankings, and that means that if things continue the way they are right now, Avec might be facing a relegation match at the end of stage 2, so you can already tell right off the bat that these standings are absolutely not set in stone, and that even the new players, the challengers that made it into the pro scene, are already really putting up a show.
I mean, I'm really just looking at Cypher, to be honest, and how he's kind of only just turned up, yet he seems to have a really solid amount of points. So he's 1 point behind Toxic right now. And even, you know, CNZ, very, very similar indeed. And the being changed around, a lot of the top side are still very, very similar. But for me, I just look at these standings and I just think of players that have turned up to play. And I mean, I'm going to talk about the new blood all the time. It's almost strange calling some of these players new blood. You wouldn't really be used to calling Dewey new blood, for example. But it's just that he took such a substantial break away from Quake. And it was the Quake Pro League that kind of really sparked up that fire underneath him to get back into the world of competition, where he's back, you know. And we have a good opportunity today to see how he's shaping up versus G-Nick, I believe.
Yeah, that is going to be one of the more interesting matches and one to definitely keep an eye on, because both of these, I mean, they might be in the 19th and the 20th spots of the leaderboards, but they're both, as you said, in a way, new blood, new entries into the Quake Pro scene, and they haven't really played each other since the Challengers League. And when that was the case, results, I believe they somewhat favored G-Nick, if I'm not mistaken. I think he won 3 out of the 4 matchups in the Challenger League, but still, it's going to be interesting to see how they perform on the actual pro stage.
Well, I believe we have got the schedule of the day to show you, lovely guys and girls at home, to find out what today's action is going to entail. We have gone into stage 2 with a bit of a changed up format where the Americas and EU/CIS are kind of intertwined, right? We're starting off with the main man, Raisy, going up against Xron, who has a lot of work to do actually going into stage number 2. Chain versus Effortless, Dewey versus G-Nick, the clash of the new players, and then Avec and CNZ. CNZ's been looking absolutely fantastic, and you know, he's already overtaking Avec, and he hasn't really been in Quake Pro League for very long.
No, not at all. I mean, I still remember last time Avec and CNZ played at a major tournament was way back PGL 2018, I believe, and CNZ beat Avec back then as well. And I think when it comes to Quake Champions, at least, that really was the matchup that opened everyone's eyes and said, oh my god, look at this player, CNZ from Estonia, out of nowhere taking down Avec, so he really is a competitor to be kept in mind.
I love this idea that players in Quake Champions really have their breakout tournaments, don't they?
Yeah.
It's like the early storyteller, and there are so many players in these brackets that you otherwise wouldn't have seen in previous Quakes, and here we are, going into Quake Champions. They're some of the best players in the world, and they are here in the Pro League. We have the other half to go through as well. Nosva versus Saigib, the eternal rivalry continues.
Yeah.
They had one absolute killer of a match when they collided at the Stage 1 finals. Kilson versus Toxic, very excited to see that one. See if Toxic really has what it takes to take it to one of the absolute top dogs in the business. And then we go into our final matches. Cooler versus Cypher. What game is this? And then we have Dahang versus Waz. Worth noting, Rafa and Base have their bye week, so they will not be playing today.
Yeah. And Dahang versus Waz, very interesting because both of these players, they know each other extremely well. They used to both be on Team Liquid, so their former teammates play together in a variety of different modes, but now today they are actually facing off against each other.
Well, we're looking at the first match very, very soon. I think it's about time we get stuck in and have a little bit of a chit-chat about that one. You know, Raisy is one of those players, I feel like he's currently the most just consistent player that we have in the Pro League right now. It's just when you look at Raisy, you're always expecting him to be always within that kind of top 4 and beyond range. Yeah. And it's just such a testament to the crazy grind he undertook so early on in the game's lifespan, where right now it just feels like, you know, if he's on a good day, almost nobody can stop him.
That's very true, because even if you just look back at the last tournament, the LAN at Luca, I believe that Raisy first took down Dahang, then he knocked out Cypher, who was on an absolutely killer run up until that point, and then finally in the grand finals he did end up losing against Cooler, but come on, Cooler is of course the king, so Raisy is absolutely a beast of a player, very well rounded, and I think Xron is up for a very difficult task today.
I almost feel like the only person that would be disappointed by how the grand finals went down at Stage 1 finals was Raisy, because everyone else, it's like that was just Cooler's day, right? Now there's so much you can take away from how that tournament went for him, where, you know, it always kind of been almost like forever the bridesmaid, never the bride, right? But it just we just talk about breakout performances where someone finally gets their massive victory that more than puts them on the map. Like, it's so weird saying that about Cooler, but it's just so fantastic that he finally had the chance to get that absolute top of the pyramid placing. And now he's going into Stage 2. Like, all eyes are on him, right? 100%. But Raisy is a player that we can always grow to expect will do well. To the point where I feel like it's going to be a very, very tough fight for Xron. But, I mean, they've kind of juggled back and forth in the past. Like, when you watch them practice against each other and that, you know, you kind of would watch some of the practice games over the course of QC. And I just think that Xron he's always looked capable. I just really think that in this stage, he's got to turn that dial up to 11, because if he continues what happened in the last stage, he's going to be a little bit concerned, I think.
Absolutely. He played Raisy before at QuakeCon, and then also once during the first stage of the Quake Pro League, and he lost both of them. And one of the big issues I feel like is the case with Xron is that he ultimately very often seems to lack self-confidence, because you tune into his stream, you talk to him beforehand, and he's just kind of talking down to himself and being like, nah, I really feel like I'm not hitting everything. Why are all these other players pulling off these things that I should be able to do myself, but I'm just not managing to at the crucial moment? So I think that confidence is so important for him, because once he gets that and once he unleashes the potential that he has, I mean, he is a force to be reckoned with.
Well, we've talked about Raisy in droves. Let's have a look at him. I mean, we always use the word consistency for the Godslayer, and I feel like he does a fantastic job every single time of just being able to assert that complete confirmation that I am one of the most consistent players in the world, if not the most consistent right now. Whether it's online, whether it's LAN, you can always expect to see him at the absolute highest end of a tournament, and it's through just disgustingly high levels of skill.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we cannot talk about Raisy without mentioning his clutch. The robot, he probably is the single best clutch player in the entire world right now. There's very few players who can rival him in skill with that particular champion, and everyone knows that he's extremely difficult to use, because even though he's got the speed, right? He's got the stack, but he's such a big target and very easy to hit. But Raisy somehow still makes him work.
It always makes a big difference as well when you actively just really enjoy and relish a champion you play. There are players out there that will learn a champion because it's good for business, but I feel like Raisy just has such an amazing time. Go and watch any of the old VODs from, what was it, Clutch Only Raisy?
That
the
was
account
amazing.
that was the climb to highest rank just using Clutch and Clutch alone. So, man's got a lot of experience. But Xron up next, and I don't want to be too negative about this guy. I really don't, because he's in the Quake Pro League for a reason. This is the collection of the greatest players in the world right now. I just think he had a very concerning stage 1, and I think it was almost a wake-up call for him to say, hey, I've got to step it up, otherwise I'm going to risk my spot and I might not be in future stages.
Yeah, I just want to repeat what I said earlier. I think Xron's biggest enemy is himself, and I think that if he can push through that mental barrier that he has, he can really make some sick things happen. And also, you gotta love the guy. He's pulled off so many beautiful plays, these amazing highlights. Yes, he did have a significant lead, but still, he would just pull off these amazing rocket jumps or stand outside of the map really on Molten Falls, if you remember that, above the Mega, just setting up a trap for his opponent. These things are just what makes the game so fun.
Well, it's a combination of this high level of talent, but almost like a lab monster in effect, where he's one of those players that will always play those strange champions that have different odd places, like the Galena totems, and the odd positions where someone might not expect, and he'll just sit in a map and just look for it, kind of in his own time, and just do a little bit of lab study, right?
Yeah.
But he is in many ways, I think, his own biggest enemy. And that confidence you talk about, it is the biggest thing that has consistently kept him from reaching his fullest potential, because fundamentally, he has the ability to hit crazy shots. He's got the brain for it. This guy knows how to play duel, especially at this level. But if he's not believing in himself, you can see that in his play.
Yeah.
He will vital rail miss, for example. And if he's already going into a series thinking, I'm not very confident about my rail, or I'm not confident about my accuracy in general, or whatever it may be, and then he misses a crucial shot, that's almost like confirming in his own head, another bad day for me. And then if you're not fully believing in it, anyone that's played Quake Champions or an Arena FPS, you're so used to being demoralized by one thing that doesn't go right that it just sticks with you. It's almost like a little permanent spot in your brain, but hopefully that doesn't happen today, Flea.
Oh, absolutely, and it also just affects how you go into every game, right? If you start the match off by thinking, ooh, my LG aim, my rail, they're really not on point today, and you're going to avoid using that weapon even in situations that really do call for that weapon being used, you're putting yourself at an enormous disadvantage, and you're giving your opponent so much room to work with. So I really think, or I hope at least, that if Xron can just push through that mental barrier, he's going to show us some amazing things.
Okay, so we have the vetoes. We can show you what the picks and bans are and what we can grow to expect going into this series. It's going to be Blood Covenant first, and then Vale of Nath up second, and then finishing things off with Awoken. The champion layout, clutch removed immediately.
Yeah, no surprises there. We were just talking about how good Raisy is with that champion and how many people fear it. That's going to be a very quick Blood Covenant, though. Two small, light champions with some pretty fast movement. We've got Slash with the crowd slide, we've got Nyx with the wall jump and the invisibility. So that's going to be a pretty fueled game, I think. Next up, we will have Vale of Nath, Doomslayer versus Eisen. Clearly, the Doomslayer has some more mobility right there, but the Eisen, of course, a very powerful champion with all the teleporters.
It feels like there is an element of respect banning on those first two maps, taking Galena away from Xron as well. There's one champion I don't think he ever fears using, and that's Galena. Because of the stuff we talked about, where he has this kind of real scientist mind for when to place the totems, and those really unorthodox locations. Get rid of it. Let's not even worry about it at all. And then finishing things off on Awoken, the Strog, I mean, it's a fantastic champion for that map. And the Ranger, just nice and standard. You've got the mobility of the Dire Orb, the burst damage potential, and also, I think, very, very important for Awoken, using that Dire Orb to just bully someone away from one of the major items, where it's very scary for them to go in, because that damage output, if you hit the good orbs, and he does less self-damage thanks to his passive with like splash for rockets and that, Dire Orb into a grounded rocket, which would otherwise be a death sentence for most champions, isn't for him. Xron can just kind of sit back and really try and force his way into some locations to get some of that control back if he loses it.
Oh yeah, and Awoken is also a map that really favors that kind of playstyle, because there are so many of these little areas where you can use the orb so effectively and so well. For example, you can use it to go through the teleporter, right, instantly get on heavy, or you can use it from heavy through the little hole in the wall to go up to mega very quickly. So there's a lot of interesting plays you can do with the orb as Ranger to completely outposition your opponent, or or take them by surprise.
Alright, so we should be going in very soon. We're almost like not used to seeing constant lights go head-to-head in Blood Covenant. There's always seems to be a little bit of a stack difference with those champions, but as you can see, we're loading in. It's going to be our first series of the day. The Godslayer versus the Handler. We can see the Nyx already coming out there from Raizy, and that Nyx on this map is very, very crucial for just getting out of a bad position, right? It's not just the mobility and being able to move around the map thanks to the double jump. She's going to be able to kind of go toe-to-toe with Slash just with how many options she has to move around. But Xron, he's just got the speed, right? And that can't be underestimated.
Yeah. Also, good play from Xron at the start to try and delay that mega health, but unfortunately for him, Raizy was doing the exact same thing and was also delaying the heavy on the other side of the map just to try and offset and counter what his opponent was doing right now. And Xron waiting underneath the bridge. I don't think either player knows that the other is that close to them, but now he will know. Xron taking some machine gun bullets and a rail to boot as well. He's got to get out, make his way back to Mega.
But at the same time, Xron has that information knowing that he's delayed the Mega, so it will be up. And if he's delayed it too, there's no way realistically he could get chased away. However, he's leaving it go for one. Actually, maybe trying to go behind him, expecting Raizy to try and go towards Mega. Potential to spring a trap, and he kind of half did.
Yeah.
You know, he managed to get some of that opening damage, and we know how much opening damage with rails matters on a map like this.
I actually don't think that Raizy was aware that Mega hadn't been taken yet. I think he assumed that Xron just picked it up, but Xron instead dropped down, going for the small armor, and we're getting another engagement over at the heavy, basically a repeat of what we saw earlier. Both players no frags just yet, but a lot of damage exchanged. Stacks staying relatively the same though, and with Mega being the next item up for contest, see, Raizy's already setting up there right now, but he doesn't really have a good idea of when the item will spawn.
Is able to kind of catch that off rhythm of the rockets. However, he's taking a lot of LG damage, and you can see Raizy's looking to go in for the kill. Has to try and get away, forced onto the jump pad though, and that is going to be a clean rail to start things off. Wonderful stuff.
Very risky play from Raizy. He will actually be too late. He was hoping to still be able to steal away that heavy armor rather, and then make his way back around to Mega, but unfortunately for him, Xron did manage to take the item before he did. Still, decent stack to work with. He's gonna collect himself some of the hourglasses and make his way over to the heavy machine gun. Xron very well aware of where his opponent is at right now, making his way back over to the rockets. And Heavy will again be the next point where a fight will break out, but Raizy very smartly decides not to commit. He knows he's one frag in the lead and he's just gonna stick with it.
And thankfully he was able to collect those sort of small armors down in the catacombs as well, so he knows that he has a decent stack to work with, isn't going to fear it too much. That's a very, very important rocket to get some of that opening damage though, but Xron wants to get in and out, and he's going so quickly Raizy can't even get a rail angle, but there's a second one, and he's able to get some wonderful damage to start things off. He's going to look for another shot. Try and keep him at arm's reach so far. Xron going full speed ahead. Would have half worked. I just feel like the damage was too real. Like if you got one more good rocket off, that might have been maybe a trade at best.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, in fact, it's just going to be good for Raizy. 2-0.
Yeah, that was a very risky play from Xron. Oh, Tribal coming out. Don't usually see that weapon. The LG from Xron looked really solid right there. Raizy unable to hit a shot, and now he's out of railgun ammunition as well. You gotta keep that in mind, because we see that happen oh so often, that a player will think he's got the kill shot lined up, and then you hear the devastating click noise. Not this time, though.
And that disengage gave Xron the opportunity to collect rail. Is he able to use that slash movement to get out? Almost that rail was just, hey, if it hits, fine. If not, I just need to try and take it just in case he's there. You know, if he chases it down and gets some damage, if the rail hit, then maybe he can fight because he's just collected that heavy. And he's got the rotation. Now, Raizy's not going to be shy of giving it up because he has got the 2 frag lead. Xron, I think, went in for that initial play because if he was only 1 frag down and that really bold move worked out, hey, it becomes a 1-1. Or something very, very similar. But Raizy has no reason to overextend just yet. He is going to fight his way towards Heavy. And there's the Ghost Walk, just to try and get out of harm's way temporarily. Raizy's going to try and not take the fight. Xron jumps down and gets a fantastic rail. That was a great position to be in. Oh yeah, perfect read from Xron as well. And that was not an easy shot to hit. I mean, he had a perfect idea of where Raizy was going to head. And right now, Xron is starting to work on making this comeback happen. Kind of messing up his movement right there, though. So Heavy up in just a few seconds. This is where most of the fights have been taking place so far. The LG is brutal. Nice. And Xron immediately tying things right back up, looking for the spawn frag. Can he manipulate it? Nope.
unable to do so, but heavy will nevertheless be his reward. And now we're starting to see Xron really get a good rotation going. That's one of the first proper rotations we've seen this map. Xron has got the heavy, 5 seconds later Mega, and he's got the speed as Slash to make it over to the other item perfectly.
He's got a full rotation so far. You see to make sure he's hitting those rails. That's what's going to matter to kind of keep Raizy down. Maintaining that control and then at the same time being able to absolutely smash someone with constant damage. It just makes it really hard for them to take a fight. That said, initial damage is done. Unfortunately, that missed rail is going to give Raizy a little bit of breathing space. The LG duel 1v1 is going to be won by Raizy 3-2. But you heard it here, folks. 5-minute warning. There's plenty left to go.
Yep.
Bad spawn for Xron, really, because there's not really much you could do. Go as fast as you can, try and hit the angle, go a little bit far away, but he gave up a bit of damage here. The fight's breaking out one more time, and Xron, he's collected quite a few of those pickups around the area, so I think his resources here are going to be pretty limited.
Yeah, I like the decision from Raizy not to pursue the fight right there. He's instead just going to catch Xron off guard, but wow, the LG coming out of Xron. Amazing. Raizy will, unfortunately for Xron, of course, have more information. He can still see when he's using the Ghost Walk. His opponent obviously cannot, and he used it to get the perfect position and land some good LG in Xron's back. There we go, the LG pinning him into the corner. Down you go, says Raizy, as he's looking to extend his lead. Xron struggling so far. He had control for a moment, but had to surrender it very quickly. And now, I don't know what I feel about this. He's kind of just feeding frags, and Raizy taking advantage of it.
He had the bold plays at the very beginning because he had the frag difference to kind of work with. There wasn't too much of a difference there, so he didn't have to worry about it as much. Now, I mean, you know, you blink and he's conceded 4 frags.
Yeah.
That's quite bad considering Raizy, he's not been shy of just kind of playing this more defensive game, and he's kind of almost just letting Xron run into the play every time. He's letting him hang himself in effect, where he's just hitting an angle and he's almost like knowing that Xron's going to come around that corner full speed ahead, and he's just punishing for it every time.
And that's one of the most amazing things about Raizy, because he tends to be a very aggressive player overall, but when he needs to, he will absolutely slow the game down to a snail's pace, or just hold whatever is the best position and use it to trap his opponent. Xron will not be able to secure Mega, but the LG is so good, and down goes Raizy. This absolutely isn't over just yet.
Pivotal opportunity here. Just over 3 minutes left, but that's a great rail. Raizy looking to maybe secure one more, and he hits the angle, even factoring in for the jump around the corner. Gets the spawn trap. Xron, very unfavorable. Knows he's down there and goes straight forward anyway. I feel that might have been somewhat of a frustration frag. You know, he gets the spawn, he's stuck in place. That's another rail to just send him out, and with just under, you know, the 3-minute mark before the end of this map, I feel like Raizy just needs to hit rails and keep Xron behind now. He doesn't even need any more frags at this stage. As long as he's hitting the rails and he's making Xron nervous to go in. Granted, I don't think Xron is going to be nervous to go in. He seems to be incredibly aggressive in this map. It's definitely not working for him anymore, though. But just keep him behind. Keep putting him in positions where he can't really come back. And if he's having to disengage and restack back up, he hasn't got time to do that anymore.
Yeah, I believe part of the reason why Xron pushed in after getting railed off the spawn right there is because just before he died, he actually landed a really good rocket doing like 80 damage on a small champion, and that's a lot to start a fight with. So I think he was hoping to still come out on top with the machine gun, but unfortunately for him, Raizy did most of the damage. And right now, as you just said, 2 minutes to go. Raizy, all he has to do is hang on to his lead. And Xron, all the pressure is on him. He cannot just let Raizy escape right now because time is dwindling. The clock is running down. And Xron needs to make some magic happen. He's got to hit the shot right here, and he will finish it off with the lightning gun. 4 frags for a minute and a half. Doable, but difficult.
He's got the champion for it. He has the means to, if he can pick up a good spawn pretty much constantly, that's going to be a rail. Not going to be enough just yet, though. Raizy has an opportunity to back up one more time, and he's surrounded by resources to heal back up. Full speed ahead! And a rocket! That one hurts so much.
There we go, off the spawn, but Raizy, of course, still has that Ghost Walk up his sleeve, and he will use it just to get away. He won't play an aggressive game because he knows that that is the only way he can still lose his matches, by just giving up those frags when he doesn't need to. Xron chasing desperately. He will find Raizy again, this time without the Ghost Walk, but the rockets, he's fumbling it!
No! That was such an important fight to win.
Yeah.
Not just to get the frag, but I mean, look at the cooldown. Raizy pretty much doesn't have it. Yeah, actually going in full speed ahead, the gauntlet really good choice to get as much damage as he possibly can. The problem he's got now is there is going to be that grace period for the Ghost Walk to come back. He really needed to win that fight near the rocket, purely so he could get the frag, catch a good spawn, and then Raizy has no get out of jail free card. That Ghost Walk wouldn't have been available. Now he's going to have it back by the next fight, and with 20 seconds on the clock and the time it takes for Ghost Walk to be active, I mean, he has hit the point of no return, unfortunately. That was a very important fight to win, and he just didn't.
Yeah, Raizy slowed the game down to perfection and just kind of let his opponent come to him and make the mistakes. And I think Xron probably was a little bit too eager to just give up those frags in the end, just racing around the corner as Slash. And that's something you've always got to be careful with when you're playing such a fast champion, is you can't let the speed control you. And that's something that we see happen even at the best, the top levels of Quake play, is that these players, once they get that speed going, they don't really care as much about what might be lurking behind the corner. And that's where Raizy will be with a shotgun.
But I think as well, just look at kind of like, just as we were about to reach, we'd just gone over the halfway point, right? And that was where the frags were just like one after the other constantly. That was the one moment that kind of put Xron so far behind that even though we had a wonderful sequence a couple of times after that, there was too much work to do, and he almost forced himself into that position where that fight breaks out near Rocket. He had no choice but to win it, and if he didn't, it was pretty much all she wrote. But to be fair, taking away from that, Xron was playing well.
Oh, he was.
You know, his combat skills there were great. He wasn't really missing too many shots. His LG was spectacular.
There were a few situations where we were absolutely like, okay, Raizy just picked up Mega, he's going to win this, but nope, Xron just took him down very nicely. So yeah, his aim was on point.
But with his aim today being really, really strong, and something that he's normally not very confident in, we still have more maps to go. So, you know, I know it sounds easier said than done, right? But maintain that level of execution and just go into it refreshed. You know, let's not be super hasty and just run into unnecessary death here. Some of those plays did make sense. You know, like he just thinks that Raizy has a low stack, and maybe he's going to be able to run in there and finish the job, re-pick it back up. But a couple of times it just didn't work, and it seemed like too much of a gamble, too much confidence that Raizy, hey, if he's sticking around, he's probably sticking around for a reason, because he's confident he's not going to lose this fight, right?
Yeah, and that's a recurring problem, especially when you're playing light champions, right? Because they only have such a limited amount of stack that when you feel like, oh, I hit that one good rocket before I died, he cannot have much to work with at all. And so you just want to push in, you want to finish it very quickly. But unfortunately, if you don't have the weapons, your opponent has the better positioning. You know, even with a stack advantage of the spawn, things can still go wrong very, very quickly. And look at this play. I like that one. Xron turning around just a moment too soon, maybe not expecting Raizy to be there, or getting a little bit of a mistime on when the Ghost Walk would run out. And Raizy taking him down quickly. And yeah, now we just saw in around a minute or two, I believe, between the 4th and the 6th minute mark is just when things started snowballing in Raizy's favor, and Xron just unable to really recover anymore.
And some of those situations like forced into an almost unsurvivable position. I think this was the moment he did hit the damage, but actually look at the stack though. The fact that he just spawned and got hit by a rail, and the fact that Raizy had about 80 stack left. When you've just railed someone fresh off the spawn that only has a starting machine gun, that's not an amazing position. It's definitely a gamble, and this was unfortunately where it all went wrong. He had to win that fight because, you know, not only would it have been the frag, Raizy still didn't have his Ghost Walk. There was like 25 seconds or so until it was finally available. So if you managed to get that frag, find Raizy on spawn, hey, he's a Nyx that's just spawned with no invisibility and no escape. So.
And I mean, it's just so difficult to hit those shots on a Nyx because, of course, he's got the wall jump, right? She can just
Doomslayer dodges in effect.
Essentially, she can just back up to a wall jump, back towards the left, towards the right. You absolutely can't predict much of that at all. And when you're just stuck on the ground as Slash, I mean, Nyx has got a very easy angle at you. So yeah, not much of a surprise right there.
But I feel like Xron had a good pick though, didn't he? You know, the Slash pick to be able to move around so fast, getting some of those frags. I actually think the mobility was in part quite important for that. You know, he was able to chase him down, where he would weaken Raizy, and sort of, you know, that one of the first frags we saw near Heavy where he jumped down and picked that rail angle. I kind of feel like maybe only Slash was capable of getting there that quick, that instantly, you know. But we're going into our second map. Raizy and Xron, Ison and Doomslayer. Definitely expect a bit of a change of pace here.
Yeah. I mean, Ison is so powerful on this map because he can essentially lock areas completely off by putting his turret rather at the end of the teleporter. Very powerful for positional control. But on the other hand, Raizy has got Doomslayer's got that double jump, and that's a nice opening rail that is going to make Xron think twice about chasing. But Raizy will just go balls to the walls, aggressive, but gets stuck behind the corner. Xron surely will be able to finish off this frag, and he will. Ow.
I mean, the lock-on applied. He just got stuck on the part of the map. And it just acted like a perfect brick wall in that instance. The question's going to be, how does Raisy pick up from that one? Because that is, by all accounts, a very unfortunate way to give up the first frag.
Yeah, he did pick off Mega on a spawn, but Xron immediately landing a good railgun shot and taking that extra stack away instantly. And now taking control of the top side of the map, and that is such an important thing to do on Vale, is to stay in control of the top part of the map, because you've got so much freedom of movement, so many good angles, and right now Raisy,
wonderful!
Absolutely unnecessary to finish it off with the railgun, but Xron is putting up a show, and he will find the 2-0 lead.
It certainly looks a lot more like Xron is feeling himself today.
Yeah.
The shots he's been hitting have been spectacular. Hopefully he can keep it up. But right now, I'm seeing a lot of confidence in this guy.
Oh yeah, and that was a pretty good tri-bolt too. I think that was like 70-something damage coming out of those 3 bolts being fired off. Xron, very good position right now, and he has a pretty nice cycle on the items as well. Heavy first, 15 seconds later, plenty of time to make his way over to the Mega Health. And at this point, Raisy is kind of stuck in that bottom area of the map towards rail. Xron's gonna have heard that bounce pad though. He knows more or less where Raisy is at. Can't quite.
Stack to work with. Even that initial damage being done, he's not going to worry about it too much. He's not going to get the Mega yet either. Now making a 10-second split in between. Definitely heard that jump pad though, and he knows it's a rocket, so he's going to get knocked down. Here comes the turret. 2 versus 1!
Yes.
And the rail! Xron making it 3-0. This has been a wonderful turnaround for him. He's done a lot of work in not a lot of time, and he's maintaining the stack too. And the Raisy, yes, he's got an LG, but that's a fantastic rocket to make him sweat a little bit. And he catches the float, but not a lot of damage. Has tried and get him before. Perfect time to score the frag, because it's going to be before Mega spawns. If Raisy was able to maybe deny that Mega and shut down some of that control, it would have been a bit of a consolation prize. Not going to be the case. It's 4-0. Opening damage now looking real good. Xron, no need to overextend. Now he's the one that can really take, the upper hand and decide how he wants this to be played. Beautiful LG catch on that double jump. Doomslayer's worst enemy is that lightning gun. He hates it so much. Uh-oh, Berserk. Man seeing red. And he can't commit. That would have been suicide going through that.
Yeah. Oh. Missing the rail though, that would have been nice, and actually doing a little bit of self-damage right there just to be able to deny Raisy the small armor as well. Xron playing a very thoughtful game right now. And again, 5 frags in the lead within just 3 minutes. That's pretty fast for even a map like Vale that, I mean, it can be played very aggressively, but also we very often see really slow and low-scoring games on this map. Not today. Xron knows exactly where Raisy is. Can he make it out? He does indeed manage to get the jump across. Always a little bit of a clenching moment because there's so much that can go wrong when you attempt that jump. Xron going back down, back up again, but now he did miss out on the Mega Health. Raisy landing 1, 2, nice rails. Can he find the third? Nice. Excellent shot from Raisy, and that's how you bring it back. All you gotta do, catch up, just hit 1, 2, 3 rails in a row, and you're back.
It's as easy as that.
It's as easy as that.
But what was also very, very easy was going in and collecting that heavy. Thanks to the delay being in place, it has kind of automatically given Raisy that control instead. Yes, he's far behind. He has a lot of work to do, but the nature of some of these smaller maps, it's very easy to kind of get that snowball effect.
Yeah, I think Xron's going to be blaming himself for that little mishap on the bounce pad right there, because if he had made it up in just one go, as you normally always do, he would have been able to challenge Raisy directly for the Mega, but by falling back down, or maybe there was some 200 IQ multi-dimensional play, I don't know, but he did manage to just fall right back down.
It almost looked a little bit like he was trying to like half trick him, because it almost looked very purposeful that he'd gone towards that corner where it stops your momentum. Yeah. And even before then, there was that fight that broke out. Speaking of a fight, actually, one is going to take place semi-near the Mega. Going to get shut down pretty quickly. But when Ron had the excellent damage, you just needed to get that one more shot as Raisy was going, on that deep jump into the teleporter. Ron had the right idea to try and get that extra damage to secure the frag, because he had the angle. It was just the choice of going for a machine gun instead of rail. I really feel like the spread kind of let him down a little bit. If he had rail there, I have no doubt he'd have hit that shot, and then it would have been much more beneficial. Yeah. But, we can't kill ourselves over every fight, can we? We have to always think about how we can recover. And recovery is what Raisy's currently working on, and then some. 2-5. It's taking a while to score some of these frags, though, so if Ron's able to play the game of numbers, maybe he can delay it long enough, try and get a frag here and there to maybe come back. Yeah. Nice denial of the light.
I feel like Xron is still playing a very aggressive game for the situation that he is in, because usually people who get out of control on Vale, they tend to just stick down towards a railgun area and wait for an opportunity, but Xron absolutely not doing that. He keeps roaming the entire map and finding damage wherever he can, and what a shot from both players actually. Xron, he is gonna push in Raizy down in a bad position, but kind of the wrong weapon out from Xron. I think he was expecting Raizy to make a run for it and rail him in the back, but not this time though. Gonna miss the shot. Heavy up in just a few seconds. I believe both players probably gonna want to make a play for this. Raizy is a little bit too late, and it will be Xron taking it away, but taking so much damage.
That was a very tricky position for Xron to be in. You know, there's a really strong reason he's not going to jump there. If I'm jumping and he's LGing me, that's just me giving myself up. Man, seeing red. Goes in for the berserk just in case he pushes forward, but he's able to push forward. Looking for another shot. Misses the rail. Bonus damage for Xron. No LG to boot. That was very unfortunate for Raisy. I feel like a little bit of a mismanagement.
That definitely was. He had the railgun out at that close of a range. Very difficult to hit those kinds of shots, and it allowed Xron to get in some free damage, deplete the LG ammunition completely, and manifest himself back on the map. Excellent rail from Raizy right there too, to boot. And right now, Xron, really bad spot right now. He's just about to jump to the middle of the map, but Raizy is there waiting for him. 2 frags of a deficit at this point with 3 minutes to go. Raizy set to make a comeback.
That was the definition of wrong place, wrong time. Xron doesn't want to give up control willy-nilly. He has to pepper down as much as he can. Needs a little bit more. Can he land it? He can! Xron, very weak. Has to be very careful about how he re-maneuvers here. There is elements to be able to restack up, but he knows Raizy's likely to spawn near rail angles, so giving up those angles is going to be pretty scary. Has been able to stack himself back up to a nice basic stack, and he's back in that level of control where he can just start to play the numbers game. He can be nice and defensive if he wants. 2.5 minutes left on the clock. Mega has been taken, but as long as Xron's able to just keep Raizy a little bit pushed away! Nice combo, actually! And the LG finishes the job. Yeah, Raizy was able to deny the heavy, but at this stage, he needs frags. He doesn't need stack, and now he has 4 more to go. This is likely going to be a map win if Xron plays his cards right.
Oh, yeah. And I must congratulate Xron for his excellent rockets. Yeah, I was just about to say,
another
his
one.
rockets have
shall
been
receive
on fire. I mean, we see it time and time again. Xron puts himself in a position for a fight, and then he just lands. Oh! I think his rocket might have actually knocked Raizy on the Mega and allowed him to steal it, so maybe not that good of a rocket in the end, but still. Xron, I mean, he's hitting a lot of really good shots right now, and they're really giving him an edge because it allows him to do some good opening damage and then switch to the lightning gun or the rail to finish off the frag.
Raizy's objective here is going to be command the Mega. Xron was able to kind of sneak a couple of those major pickups in to score some of those frags initially. In a lot of those fights, Xron, he had barely any stack left. He was just hitting more shots when the time counted, and if Raizy's able to kind of deny that, maybe these fights will go a little bit more in his favor, and he can start to daisy chain them together, because he is running out of time. 1 minute 20 on the clock here. Xron, that's why he's positioning himself near rail. Like, my man's just trying to tank up now. Don't give him anything to work with. May concede a frag here. Can we get as much damage as possible? Not really enough for Xron to be comfortable, I think, because there's 2 frags to even things out. 1 minute warning. This comeback is still very, very possible indeed.
Yeah, and you can tell that Xron really wants to get a hand or a hold of that rocket launcher because it's such a powerful item to trade damage with. Finally, he does get it, but will fall into the acid, and that's gonna allow Raizy to do a whole lot of damage. Heavy is waiting. Raizy is in a better position to take it. Xron is actually gonna look to do some damage. These are some pretty risky plays, knowing that he only has 1 frag of an advantage over his opponent.
I feel like there's going to be a bit of a runaway play here now. Xron knows he had to give up some of those pickups. If he takes a one-on-one fight, it's going to be suicide. He doesn't have the stack. And Raizy, I mean, he's been hitting his shots all day. Brave to assume that maybe I can just out-damage him in this situation. Does manage to find him, Xron, and he's just hiding at this stage. He's trying to fortify himself, get some of that information, listen out for Raizy, and when he hears him, he's going to get the hell out of there, but he's got to make the right call. Right now, it is working out. 10 seconds to go. Can he catch it? The rocket jump to go in. Has to chase it down. Xron, he's going to run for his life, and he does run just long enough.
Yep.
And very, very importantly, Xron's able to get a map win. That is so important for him. But he played it perfectly at the very end. You know, 2 more seconds on the clock, maybe that would have been an 8-8.
It absolutely could have been.
Perfectly to run away.
Yeah, and Raizy's chase was pretty decent. I liked the rocket jump he did from down below near rail, basically to get onto LG in one nice shot to chase his opponent around. But Xron had just a little bit too much of a lead, managed to get around the corner, and then in the end plays down his turret as well. So, excellent plays.
I think he just played the map incredibly well.
Yeah,
you know, and there's no two ways about it. It just looks like a Xron that has stepped up to the plate.
Yeah.
This just doesn't really look like the same player that we saw in Stage 1. And that sounds incredibly vague, but if you watch this guy play week after week, there was always this element of doubt when he was playing. You know, he almost looked like he didn't believe in himself. But now this looks like a Xron we're familiar with. You know, a player that knows what he can do. He knows how good he is at the game. And against Raisy as well. Like, taking a map like this against Raisy, who is very efficient on Vale of Nath, that's no easy feat.
Oh, yeah. We're seeing some beautiful rails come out of Raisy, though. This fight, or this map rather, Raisy at the rails, and Xron had most of the rockets. But I definitely agree with everything that you're saying. Xron, he looks like a revived man, brought back from near death, I might say. Landing the shots, playing with confidence.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there we go. See the
He
rocket.
hit so many miracle rockets, and they just beautifully combo together.
Yeah.
And it put Raisy in these positions where I almost feel like Raisy was not prepared to take as much damage as he was taking, or even then, just getting knocked up the way he was getting knocked up. You know, Ron, he was like ready for every single fight. The damage just consistently added up, and to the point where Raisy was about to start making comebacks. Because Ron had done such a wonderful job beforehand, he gave himself lots of breathing space.
Yeah.
And that breathing space clearly really mattered because, you know, we went down to the last second, and a couple of seconds after that, we probably would have seen Ron lose the frag, and then it would have been an 8-8 sudden death.
Yeah.
It's just, he did such a wonderful job at the start that Raisy was just constantly having to catch up. So
I think you're definitely right about Raisy just not expecting the sheer amount of damage to come out of Xron, because you've got a pretty good stack as Doomslayer, right? You think, I'm just gonna hop onto this heavy and get out, and then all of a sudden it's 1 rocket, 70 damage, another 100, and then before you know it, you're down to 50, 40 points of health, and there's a very angry Xron chasing you down with an LG or a rail. Absolutely a complete subversion of expectations. Raisy not ready for that kind of damage at all, so Xron, he's delivering.
I mean, you feel confident in a fight, and then you get knocked up into the air and all this blue stuff just starts hitting you in the face. You hate to see it, but you love to see it if you're a fan of Xron. We're going into our final map now, which, with how the series has been going so far, I'm really excited for it. I think that Awoken is a fantastic map for this really high-octane, unbelievable set of combat skills, and I actually look at the champion lineup too, Strog versus Ranger. If Xron is playing with the confidence and efficiency that he's been playing all throughout the day, Ranger's a great character for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, because if you can get past that peaker barrier and you can just close the gap and get right into your opponent's face with a rocket and an orb, there's very little that a character like Strog can really do in the end. And look at that opening first damage of the map, 100 direct straight to the face, and there we go.
That was a beautiful fight, and Raizy's trying to get some of that initial damage. If I had to concede that 100 damage rocket at the very start, alright, let's just try and even it up some. Xron ready. He was so ready for that, it's not even funny. He goes in and lands the initial rocket, combos it into the orb, and again, going back to that close range rocket mechanic that Ranger doesn't really have to worry about because of less self-damage, it was a perfectly taken fight, and it's given him a wonderful level of control.
Oh, yeah.
There's barely a divide in between the two items, but this is Awoken. That doesn't really matter as much. The trade, at this stage, it's going to benefit Xron purely because he's in the lead, and we are about to see the Mega. Good spawn for Xron, actually. He gets the rocket launcher side, which now means he's going to have the Dire Orb and all means to fight for this Mega if Raisy chooses to challenge it.
Yeah, Xron, and I really like the positioning right now. Xron is not going to wait on the Mega, but just put himself a little bit in front, expecting Raisy to maybe come in aggressively to try and do some damage or steal the item, and he would have been perfectly placed to deal with that. Look at that, out of nowhere! So much damage! Xron, is he going to push this with the orb? Just falls short of getting the telefrag right there. Raisy manages to clean it up with LG, but that was a close and dirty fight if I've ever seen one.
Xron definitely had the right idea. He just missed the two rails, and there's all you can really say about that one, that the idea was there to get the damage, he just wasn't able to land it.
Yep.
Hopefully he can keep his wits about him though, because you can look at the level of stack. Xron is very comfortable indeed, and here comes the LG. I feel like Raizy was able to fight significantly well, but fundamentally, Ron just hit more shots, but there's Raizy for the refrag.
And
Happy days.
Yeah, that's definitely what I was afraid of, because even though Xron wins that fight, Raizy had taken both Mega and Heavy in that situation, and you've got absolutely nothing to work with. And right now, it's starting to seem like a few frags are going to go Raizy's way. He's got a very nice rotation going on right now, and it is up to Xron to break it. Can he land some more of those miracle rockets? Not gonna do a whole lot of damage right there, but he's got time. Oh, Raizy almost making the jump across. Yeah, Raizy likes showing off those kind of things, we all know that.
There's that movement. Yeah, I can't see him. Too much of a risk, leaving yourself exposed, and leaving himself exposed long enough. But it did allow Xron to get that rail.
Yep.
Crazy how punishing these can be, and even though he hit the rail, he's very weak indeed. Xron looking to put on the chokehold, but thanks to LG Room, there's a lot of pickups to heal yourself back up, so Raizy now is going to be healthy enough to at least get away. Maybe not so much for a fight just yet, especially now Xron taking both items, having a fat level of control at this point.
I think that was a very good decision from Xron, because he could have chased and tried to take the fight to Raizy right there, but instead he knew Mega's about to come up, and then I can just move on to Heavy. So he decided to go for the items instead. This is difficult for Xron. He's gonna use the orb to get past the Peeker. Exactly what I said at the start of the map. Once you can get past that Peeker barrier, there's so much you can do with the Ranger.
I'm not even sure that Dire Orb was a reaction, because it almost came out at the exact same time Peeker did. So the point where there's a fight against a Strog, it's against Raizy, there's almost like a certain flow where you kind of know when he's going to pop the Peeker in a fight like that, and he opted to just go right past it. That was an absolute galaxy brain decision, and it worked wonders. He's hitting some great rails, needs to land one more. Raizy, pretty weak and tender, looking to escape, and once more he's having to concede the level of control. That's one thing that Xron's kind of had in droves, is just constantly taking these major items. I think in part of that is just the Ranger, right? That orb and rocket combination on a map like Awoken, it's something you have to respect.
But in Raizy's defense, though, he has had on numerous different occasions so far, just before he died, stolen one or two major items. And that's so difficult for Xron to deal with, because just on the last rotation, he gets around and he kills Raizy, but Raizy picks up Heavy like half a second before he goes down. And that means that Xron is denied the biggest source of armor on the map.
It forces Xron to restack up using traditional methods. That was some tasty tri-bolt. And the question is, how does Raizy get away? There are a couple of means to get some stack here, but not enough. Ron, he's going to actually sit around and maybe a little bit of a fake out.
Yeah, I think so too. And Raizy falls for it!
You just activated my trap card right there. Oh, that rocket! Oh, maybe not scrap that. How about that one? That was such a play. And
another.
What are these rockets, Flea? What is going on?
I gotta say, I love how Raizy got out of that previous fight, though, because he knew going up the bounce pad, staying around, probably would have been dead, but the rocket jump's so risky because he was relatively low on stack, but still, it paid off for him, and Xron is going to find himself yet another frag halfway through this matchup, and Xron actually looking at a 3-point lead.
Needs to get himself some rockets, though. Only has one. This is the rail, and that's probably going to be punished with the frag. Does get a little bit of damage, and he's out of ammo all the way round. Uh-oh. Oh, no. I feel like that's one of the worst times to running out of ammo for both weapons that you kind of need to take out Peeker, and then you just hear, woo!
Gotta love the desperate one tri-bolt shot onto the Peeker.
Take him out.
Not enough, unfortunately. Raizy still has plenty of time to make a comeback happen, and he does have both of the major items to his name. Xron right now has got to play a bit more of a defensive game. He doesn't have a railgun to work with right now. He's spawned on the LG side of the map, and Raizy is fully aware of that, knows that if he can deny that crucial weapon to his opponent, he will be in a very good position.
Xron conceding control. You actually saw it on the X-ray. He was kind of sitting around Banana looking to spring a trap, I think. Even if it doesn't bite, it's going to give Xron wasted time, and as long as you've got the lead, time to waste is all you can really hope for.
Yep. Works out very nicely in Xron's favor, but he will miss out on the Heavy, and Raizy is actually just going to go fully aggressive, trying to chase him down. We know him as an aggressive player, and that's exactly what he's showing right now. Xron takes the flick rail to the face. Down he goes, and Raizy definitely not giving up just yet.
There's a really high level of clutch that we're seeing here, because if that rail missed and then he took the rocket from Xron, there's a potential that Xron could have gone in, because he hadn't used his Dire Orb. You know, he was really waiting for that opportunity to pull the trigger on the orb, and he hadn't used it. So if that rail missed, potentially we would have seen Xron run even further away with this series, thanks to Raizy's crazy levels of clutch. Looking to get even more of it. He's been able to tie the knot, 7-7. Xron able to maybe deny, but
Xron, are you aware it's there? Yeah.
I love the movement to make it even harder to take it out. Xron pops the Dire Orb. Can he get it? No, he can't. Looking for a bit of extra damage, and that super shotgun is going to blow him away. Raizy's been able to take control, but he's very weak. He has to look for some armor. Ouch!
Yeah, actually takes some nail damage there as well. Xron is going to savor every little bit of damage that he can get right now. He's one frag behind, and there's 2.5 minutes left on the board, so he knows he needs to be careful right now. He can't just play that hyper-aggressive game where he just keeps throwing himself at his opponent, because that'll almost definitely go wrong. He's gotta keep his wits and just play a relatively slow game, wait for the opening, and then just pounce on Raizy when the time is right. And there we go. That's some good LG damage. One rail will finish him off, but Raizy does have that crouch slide to quickly get around the corner.
And now Xron, although he's got the stack, you know, Raizy has the mobility thanks to crouch slide. So that this game of Raizy saying, I'm going to try and give up as little angles as I can. Let's not give Xron anything to really work with. He's changed his entire positional game. He's gone around from just seeking Xron out, which he's been doing for most of it, to basically playing at a snail's pace.
Yeah.
And really just listening out for Xron. If he can hear him, he'll kind of just stop and just see if Xron has any information. It's fair to assume now that Xron doesn't have a lot of information.
No, absolutely. There's next to no information right now. And Raizy will reveal himself to do a whole lot of damage, but Xron actually looking slightly better when it comes to the stack. Wow. And yep, there we go. The orb, Raizy absolutely not ready for it. Still had the LG out. Xron tying things right back up. Can he find a spawn frag? One rail. That'll help him out quite nicely.
He took him by surprise too. Like, yep. Raizy was the one that initiated that fight. It's just once more. The damage is so insane. Oh! Minimal damage on Pika! Oh! 2 excellent rockets! And Xron has the lead again with 1 minute left to go. Here's that rail. And not an ability to shut down the Mega. That's unfortunate. But thankfully, I guess, has run out of rockets, actually.
Yeah, he's got to be careful,
Raizy's
actually.
Gonna look to punish him. Yeah, has to be very careful indeed.
He had no rockets, no LG in that situation, and look at the parkour coming out of Xron, working that heavy nail gun to maneuver himself around the map. Heavy armor will be up in just 1 second, but it looks like it'll be Raizy to pick that one up. Xron keeping control of the center of the map, keeping that damage up, looking good so far, and there goes probably the final peeker we're gonna see this matchup.
And Raizy's in an awkward position. He has to try and go in and make something happen, but as long as Xron is hitting these irritatingly efficient rails, it's going to make it very hard for Raizy. Xron looking to him for the kill. This should by all means be guaranteed, but that rocket, that one rocket does slow down Xron's pace a little bit. If he makes something happen, it has to be right now, but I fear there may not be time. He's coming up behind him. Xron just using his ears, really. And there we go.
Wow.
What a crazy way to start off week number 2. Crazy business.
That is one hell of a surprise. Really a shake-up in our very first match of the day. I don't think either of us was expecting Xron to come out on top there, especially after how he's been struggling in these last few weeks, even at the tournament in Italy, whereas Raizy made it all the way to the grand finals against Cooler. But damn, he came out swinging. It really feels like that is a Xron that we were so used to seeing before. Yeah. And almost why it was so shocking, I think, in Stage 1 that, yes, although Xron wasn't having to face relegation, so he was okay in that instance, now the competition is so much more fierce. Xron's position is not as safe as it once was. The time to really step it up is now, but he's taken that opportunity to run with it, essentially. And, you know, Raizy was playing well at the same time, but I feel like there was a level of underestimating Xron in the second map that we played, but he definitely went into Awoken with a lot more respect of understanding how much damage could be done. That didn't stop Xron, though, from hitting some ridiculously high damaging rockets that just set up disaster all the way through. And even down here, these fights, how many times did Xron simply just outplay Raizy when that trap was sprung near the end, where he just sat there and did the fake on the rocket, sat there and did nothing,
and Raizy fell for it. He jumped straight down near SSG and gave up another frag. It's just this level of Xron being that next step ahead against someone like Raizy. Like, how many times do you see Raizy get played like that?
Oh, very few times. Yeah, doesn't happen often at all. Xron played the orb to perfection, I feel like. He used it to get past Peeker on numerous occasions. He used it to do a whole lot of damage, get himself right up to his opponent's face, to do the rocket damage whenever it was necessary. So I'm very happy to see what looks like a revival of Xron in the end, and I hope that this match and this win over one of the best players in the world, right? Raisy currently ranked 3 on the global leaderboards. Maybe this will give him the confidence to move forward in the next few weeks and say, look, I'm here and I can do this.
The fact that he hit those rocket angles, even in that replay, he had the smallest little position to work with. But you said it yourself, maybe getting this win versus Raizy is finally the opportunity for Xron to just take that doubt that's in his brain and just discard it, because it shouldn't be there.
Absolutely.
Clearly, we have clearly seen today that Xron needs to no longer doubt himself, because Quake Pro League gathers the best players in the world. That is why Xron is on that list.
Oh yeah, and I mean his aim. I think that was such a good factor today. The rockets, we just saw them time and time again, but also the railgun was there when he needed it. And then the LG. Oh my god, so many perfect tracks throughout literally every single map that we've seen. So Xron, he's looking like he's back.
It's great to see. And there are so many storylines going into Stage 2, and I suppose the revival of Xron is one of them, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
But he has plenty of more opponents to go throughout the course of the league. You know, I know the format now where there's going to be more variety in who plays who.
Yep.
It's a great look to see how Xron's going to be shaping up. And I think facing off against Raisy this early and getting a win in the fashion, you know, I don't feel like Xron clawed that kicking and screaming. He asserted dominance in the maps that he won by just playing incredibly well. Yeah. And Raisy was playing as well as we expected too. So nothing to take away from it on a negative sense at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you said, right? This time around for Stage 2, it's a round robin, meaning that every player has to play every other pro in their region. And at this point, Xron has already beaten Raisy, who's currently the second highest ranked player in EU. So knowing that you've already crossed and overcame that hurdle, I mean, that's an amazing mental boost.
I mean, if you're the other players in that part of the world, I think you're going to be maybe looking at Xron in a different light, potentially sweating a little bit, saying, oh God, okay, well, it's just inspiring everyone else to improve, right, and reach that next level as we go into future weeks. We have got our first series of the day over and done with. Xron, well done for that win. We're going into our second one. We're going to go for a quick break. This is Stage 2 of the Quake Pro League. Don't go anywhere.